There was a massive change in Battlegrounds recently where 35 buddies I think got buffed and nerfed, and some other additional small details that changed. So I'm gonna cover them right now, since a lot of these actually will change up the game a lot. So I'll give my feedback on how good or bad I think these changes are for the heroes, and where I think the meta might be heading in direction. Also, quick note, I'll do an entire new tier list soon, because the meta is starting to stabilize and we're seeing what the strong and weak heroes are. So if you want to catch that, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Starting off with the minion pool change, Hamuul got removed, and this question I got quite a lot. What do you think about Hamuul being removed? Now, there's a couple of reasons why. The first one, which is what the dev said on Twitter, is because it is too much snowball stuff. Like, if you already have elementals or demons or whatever, you find Hamuul, you just get even more ahead. So they didn't like that. Another reason I assume is that you could just get a full shop of Amalgadons now, because buddies made it easier. How is if you're on tier 6 and you have a tribe on the board that is not in the game. Let's say you have a beast, which previously was doable if Quillboars were in the lobby. If you have a Pumbaa or the boar on tier 5, that's a beast. Where no beast in the lobby, you play Hamuul. It couldn't find any beasts to put in the shop except for Amalgadons, so it's a full board of Amalgadons. And now with buddies having tribes as well, you can get tribes that are not in the lobby and do the same stuff. So to try and, I think, remove that high roll completely, Hamuul is also gone. Now, how I feel about it, I think it's pretty good. Hamuul did lead to a lot of high roll. You saw some crazy optimized boards and triples and Amalgadons because of Hamuul. Like if you play Murlocs, then you find way more lookouts and more dongs. It just led to some really toxic stuff. As well, if you triple into a 6 now, hitting Hamuul felt really bad. If you get like Hamuul, Muxlinger, and Zap, you just cry. So another 4-4 neutral on tier 6 being gone makes tripling into 6s a bit more valuable. You can now power level and hit something relatively good most of the time. So I'm happy with this change. I think Hamuul was a cool card. I think it was a nice concept, but it's probably better if it's not in the game anymore. So the buddy changes. We got this bomb from Maleficent. It already was nerfed to a tier 4, but now it also deals 3 damage instead of 4. And also, one small detail is the text. It's used to say repeat for each of your mechs that died this combat. Now it says for each of your mechs that died this combat. So if it dies and no mechs died yet, it won't actually deal the 3 damage. So you actually need to build up a board of mechs first that die, and then bomb has to die in order for it to actually deal damage. So it's a small detail, but now if you put this first, for example, to have it go into Kangors, it won't actually proc on impacts. I think Maleficent will still be like playable. She got like a lot of nerfs though. This is a big deal. But Max, you know, it's more of a tempo mid-range meta we're in right now. I saw a lot of people saying it's leaning towards greedy meta soon. Things are already shaping up like more high rolly, people tripling to 6s and 5s. I have not experienced that yet, but I wouldn't be surprised to see that happening soon. So yeah, in that case, this will definitely fall off and we will see less Maleficent. But for now, as long as you can pull off some decent tempo mech comps, this will still see some good play. And this is probably the biggest change of all. Finally, Illidan was so toxic. You just get immune poisons on both sides. It used to be Tavern tier 2, now it is a Tavern tier 3, and also it is your first minion that attacks has immune while attacking for 1 attack only. Your first minion, so only one of the 2 left side will get immune, which is a huge deal. It already mitigates like half of the immune that you had, so another immune poison will just be normal poison. And yeah, tempo wise, you get this a lot later. I have not seen Illidans in my lobbies today when playing, and you used to see them in every single lobby. It seems like this really hurts Illidan, and I'm fine with that. It was super toxic, so good to see this. Snack Vendor AFK's buddy was also not great, but instead of giving your tier 3 minions +1/+1, it now gives them +1/+2, which is a slight buff. I think AFK will still be on the weaker side, but it's not bad. I think you could definitely pull off some top 4s now, like more consistently. Again, as long as we stay in a tempo mid-rangey meta. If things go greedy again, this will be horrible. Just because AFK doesn't have an amazing hero power. Captain Fairmount, this is Cariel's buddy. At the end of the turn, it gave 3 random minions +1/+1. Now it gives 5 random friendly minions +1/+1. So it's just an extra +2/+2 a turn, and this felt really good. I played Cariel earlier today. I think I got a first or a second place just using this scaling, my hero power. I was looking for Lightfang, didn't find it, but then I just went to do this random menagerie poison hybrid in the end. It just puts so much pressure on the board early on if you have good cards to buff up, and it can buff itself. It's also 7/5, which is not that bad. I definitely think Cariel, still not a great hero, but it's probably a bit playable now. And Ticket Collector, when I first saw this, I thought it wouldn't make too big of an impact. Basically what happened is now Battle Cry, it will discover a prize from your next prize turn, not from most recent, so you kind of like look in the future. And this isn't amazing until you hit Bran. If you have a Bran, I've seen boards on Twitter being posted by multiple people that I know, just having a board full of insane Divine Shield stat minions just because they got like Golden Brand with a Ticket Collector, got a bunch of tier 6 spells. So if you make it to the late game, I think you win. But you just gotta survive early on. Early on, you still don't have that much pressure. Your hero power is still kind of meh, but definitely way more potential here. I think you could definitely pull off some great high rolls. Muxlinger, this was Shadowwalk's buddy. Didn't see too much play, I think. Shadowwalk still played the same, find tokens, triple into 5s and 6s and snowball. You didn't really rely on this too much, but basically it used to be after you play a minion, add a Battlecry minion to Bob's Tavern. Now it also gives that minion in Bob's Tavern +2/+2. I don't think that matters too much. Like you basically just buy cards because of their Battlecry. I assume this would give you some extra tempo, but it changes the shutter style completely. This means that you don't go for the token triples into 5s and 6s, which is just always how you play Shadowwalk. I guess you could play like more of a tempo Battlecry kind of board and then start cycling cards and maybe get a little bit of tempo. It doesn't make sense. I don't think this will change Shadowwalk like much at all. Krabby, so this is Savjz's buddy. Savjz was a very toxic hero as well. Now got nerfed to a tier 4, and the stat line got reduced from a 5 tree, yeah, to a 2 tree. Massive nerf to stat line and to when you get it. Plus, on top of that, let's not forget that Targosa is now on tier 4 as well, so got nerfed from tier 3 to tier 4. So it's harder to find those cards that scale up. It's harder to find the crab. You have less tempo. You still have a decent hero power. You still have, you know, ways to win early fights and get this relatively early, I would say. But definitely not the insta-win snowball hero that he once used to be. So I haven't seen Savjz in my lobbies either. I can't really speak for how strong he currently is, but it seems like it's not just a free snowball. It's just, yeah, kind of gotta get lucky and maybe stay away from him. So George also has been a really consistent hero. Now from Tavern tier 3, it went to Tavern tier 4, so it also got the same treatment. And from a 7-4, it went to a 3-4, so 4 attack got knocked off. And George will always be like an interesting hero, will always be decent even without a buddy. Just getting a full board of Divine Shield cards usually just gets you into the late game if people don't ghoul you too early on. If you just have cool boards in the lobby, so you can find Gem Splitter, you can shake, you can do all sorts of cool interactions and stuff. And yeah, like you lose a little bit of potential early tempo. It's a big body and it helps you scale up the attack of the cards on your board, but I don't think it will matter too much. Like Georges might now die a little bit earlier. You can't just have a free game anymore, while previously you could just kind of do whatever and this will kind of carry you to the end. So you'll have to still be smart about it, make good decisions, but George will be in relatively the same state, I think. Cirella's buddy Baby Alec is now a tier 3 instead of a tier 2, which, yeah, a minor detail. The basic difference is the tier 2 card you could get on turn 4, 6 golds if you know, are really early and play good tempo boards. A tier 3 card you get on 7 gold, turn 5, if you again have good boards. And Cirella, for example, most of the time has great tempo boards, so you should be able to get it on the 7 gold turn. It's still good, like it still scales up a lot for free. You get the tripled version a lot later, I guess that is more important. But Cirella will always be good as long as there's tokens in the lobby and you can stay down and just get triples and do strong stuff. I would still think she is good. I would still think this buddy is alright. Not broken anymore. I think Cirella was S tier, probably now more like A tier, but don't get fooled by this change. Mishmash also went from a Tavern tier 2 to a Tavern tier 3, and also the stat line got reduced from a 3-3 to a 2-2. I played Curator twice today and he felt just as strong. Again, same deal, you get your buddy like 1 turn later, but by then you usually, you know, in the early on, you don't really buff this up too much. If you get this on turn 4 or 5, usually you're still setting up a board, buying cards, and only like turn 5, 6, 7, you start buying buffs like mugs, gems, stuff like that. Then you have the Whelp Smugglers and you start scaling up your board. So essentially, you are just losing out on a little bit of tempo early on, but the same snowball still applies. Every single time I got a massive golden mishmash that just carries me in the end, if there's no poison in the lobby. Like without poison, the stats are still bigger than what most people seem to be able to put out. I'd still call Curator good. Definitely like reasonably sized nerf, but I haven't felt the effects of it. Valitra Dreamwalker, the Sarah buddy, which was pretty bad, is now a tier 4, 6-4. I don't know why they did this. Why did they make this a tier 4? Ysera is not in a good spot right now anyway because they took away Targosa as well to tier 4. Now they're nerfing the buddy so you get it even later. Like sure, they slightly up the stat line, which I don't think matters. I'm gonna be honest, I don't understand this change. I think HysteriA might have even like needed a slight buff on this. I don't know. I haven't seen any HysteriAs in my lobbies. I haven't played it myself either, but this seems to make little sense to me. Master Godwin, Vol'jin's buddy, is now a tier 4 as well compared to a tier 3. It seems like a lot of buddies get this treatment. I think Vol'jin is still in a decent spot. You can still do exactly the same stuff as before. Sure, again, one turn later. But on Vol'jin, it doesn't matter that much. Again, you're still setting up a board. This card isn't like scaling or snowballs. You just slap it on the board once and then it copies attack. So usually you're still like leveling with your Chroma Wing or building up or scaling whatever cards you have. Yeah, I think it's definitely gonna hurt Vol'jin quite a bit, but not as much as, you know, some of the other nerfs maybe. Arthas, Lich King's buddy, also went up a tier, which sure, like I think because so many cards are going up a tier, the effects are also seen less or felt less. Like if everything collectively or half of the buddies change up a tier or get nerfed, then you're not gonna feel the effects of it because, well, everything is up a tier. I don't think like tier 2 buddies going to tier 3 buddies has seemed like it was super impactful. Arthas will still be good. You will still have reborn value early on. It's turn 5 instead of turn 4 now when you get this. Sure, it's Lich King. He wins all of his fights anyway. The Scar went from tier 3 to tier 4. This is Patch's buddy. Gives a buff for each pirate that you play this game. Usually, like, you don't even play your buddy as soon as you get it, so this nerf does nothing. Like, when I get my buddy on Patches, I never just slap it on the board and play it. I usually keep it in hand a couple of turns until I cycled more pirates and maybe found a brand. Because, you know, you want to scale this up. Patches is generally pretty strong early because you get so much economy and tempo from your hero power, and just pirates in general have good tempo boards. I think this will have no impact whatsoever. The only impact is that you get your 2 other Tuskars later in the game. So you get your tripled, you usually don't keep it on the board, but you get your 2 other versions way later, so you will need to pop off before that. Well, previously, you could just play a strong board and hope that you survive until you get your 2 other raiders and then just pop off. And Gallerig's their buddy, I think same deal as with Patches their buddy, exactly the same deal. Except for with Gally, I usually played this earlier, like when I got a buddy, sometimes I played it in the same turn if I set up for it, if I had like a lot of gold cycle, a lot of gold ready, and I wanted to pop off. But I see a lot of Gallerix also hold this in case they find their brand, if they're already strong enough to not die. So same deal, it's just your 2 other copies, I think, later on in the game that you get that are gonna be the thing that you feel the most when things go from like tier 3 to tier 4. Sparkfin also got a nerf, but it's a slight stat nerf. And again, that doesn't really matter. You play this card for the cards in your shop that you get, not for the body it has. I've never kept this on my board to try and triple it. Doesn't even make that much sense. You can just play 2 Spark Fins anyway and get the same effect. So I wouldn't even call this a big nerf. I don't think it will change how Forgol is played. Dancing Daryl's buddy is now a 2-2 instead of a 3-3. Sure. Like, again, a -1/-1 stat change isn't that impactful in a meta where, you know, a single buddy can mean like a 50-50 stat difference compared to other stuff because of snowball potential. Like, in the end, if you have a 50-50 or a 49-49 Asher, it's gonna be the same thing. And early on, Daryl has enough tempo anyway. Like, you don't need that +1/+1 as Daryl. You win all your early fights. So this doesn't, again, make too much sense to me. Magnus Monastorm, so Millhouse's buddy went from tier 2 to tier 3. Again, everything goes up. Millhouse always gets their buddy really early because they have stronger boards than everyone else, so they usually cap out every single turn with their buddy meter. I played Millhouse twice today. It felt amazing twice in a row. Like, whether you get this a turn earlier or not seems to not make too big of a difference. The only difference is if you stay down and you play this early and try and find a lot of triples. You can do it still, basically, but just a turn later, which is fine, because usually when you get triples, you want to hold them in hand anyway. Again, it's for the tripled version. You get that a little bit later. But yeah, if you tripled early on with the tier 2 version, you just kept them in hand or frozen in the shop. So again, no difference. And you want to cycle 4s and 5s, which you have the tier 3 buddy by then. Unearthed Underling. So this is Lich's buddy, which is the one that enables the tier 1 strat, where you stay on tier 1, find a bunch of retrievers, cycle demons, and skill this up as well. Because it's basically a Mal'Ganis or a Katana tier that makes you immune and skills up as well. So from tier 3 to tier 4 means that you get it way later, meaning you will probably take a lot more damage early on. But you can still do the tier 1 strat, I think. Because just like Queen Whack Toggle, getting a tier 4 buddy is actually pretty easy if you have some really big units on the board. Some really big big Wrath Reavers will still allow you to just, you know, get this on the turn, which is, I think, turn 6. Pretty late, but, you know, still in time to snowball. But again, the tripled version being so late is gonna make the big difference here. Tessa's buddy went from 4 to 3, so one of the first buffs that we see so far, which was necessary. Tess was in a really bad spot. I think she still is. Again, when these cards were first revealed, everyone thought that random buddies were nuts, like, oh, you can get buddies from everyone and they see all the combos. But keep in mind that most of the time when you steal a buddy, it does nothing for you. If you face a Mukla, how, like, you get 1 banana a turn, I guess. But if you face Lord Barov, the only way you can get coins is by getting Briny Bootlegger. If you face Tavish, the crab is useless to you because you get nothing in return. There's just a lot of buddies that very often just do nothing for you. They're also weak. Their stat line, it's a neutral. You would have to fit it on the board. And this has to stay on your board. I think Tessa's buddy is just way too overrated, pretty bad. And there's cool combos, but I don't think this will make her, like, a lot better. Her main power will still be in her hero power, being able to yoink people's boards and triples and stuff like that. I think exactly the same deal with Scaps. They also got their buff. Their buddy basically is exactly the same. So I don't think I need to discuss this. Flight Trainer, this definitely needed a buff. It got a slight stat buff. It got +1/+1. It is still a tier 2. I think Gilwing might be playable now. Not necessarily because of the buff, but because of all of the nerfs. So because there's like so many things changing and everything going up a tier, having like a really early buddy like this with a decent stat line is gonna probably be slightly more impactful. So I think you can play Galewing again. Still don't think he's gonna be one of the better heroes, but probably like B, A tier. Now Baby Godo, Guff, Rune Totem's buddy is a very interesting one. I've seen a lot of people talk about this, and from tier 4 to tier 3 ends up making a big difference because it's your spike turn. This card, as soon as you get it, you play it and you get a 6-drop, a 5-drop, all that stuff, and that might actually matter what turn you get it. If you get this on turn 5 or turn 6 or 7, that's a big deal. If that's a Caligos, if that's an Eliza, whatever. So I feel like Guff might be playable. Hero power will still suck. Don't use the hero power, but just getting, you know, early discoveries, you're kind of like a Galakond in a sense, without having to commit your hero power every turn. So I still need to play it, but I think he might be in a somewhat viable position. Deathwing's buddy, Lady Sinestra. I think Deathwing is trash. I've said it the entire time. But now from a tier 3, it goes to a tier 2, so you get it super early. The stat line went down though to a 1/6 instead of a 3/8. Yeah, I think there's just so many heroes that do things so much better than Deathwing's hero power. Like, the hero power sometimes actively screws you over. You really can't justify still picking this hero. Even if the buddy is pretty good, I would say like a tier 2 1/6 that gives +3 attack to your minions is really good. You're not gonna win lobbies. Now, Lil KT is now a 5/4 instead of a 5/2. Small buff, but I think again the buff to Bigglesworth is all of the other cards being nerfed, or a lot of other cards being nerfed. Like, I played Cat twice today as well, and it felt pretty good just because, yeah, I just stole good stuff. It felt good to just slap a 5/4 early on the board and just get a Brand because I faced Brand, or then get a buddy from Ragnaros and then I find a Light Fang. Like, there were so many cool things that I could have done, and then people just started dying, and I played Tempo Combs because I guess people are still a little bit too greedy. And then, of course, Bigglesworth's hero power gets better and better the longer the game goes on. I think if armor will be introduced back in the game, Cat will still like be in a really bad spot because armor prolongs the game. You like very fast games where you actually have decisions to make to stay alive, so that way people die and of course they feed you. I think Cat is in slightly a better spot, but I still wouldn't say she is like A tier at all. Then Navigator, which is Elise's buddy. Everyone just thought Elise was the nuts, but went from tier 3 to tier 2, which is also like a decently big change. Just lost 1 HP, which I guess. And I think Elise will still be pretty bad, but probably more playable, since now you get it insanely early. So if you start leveling, your maps will be reduced by 1 a turn earlier, of course. I have to think about how it's gonna work out, like how you should level now. Can you actually power level with this? Issue again with power leveling is that you don't get your buddy. So you have to play strong boards in order to get this buddy, but then the buddy gets less value. So there has to be a balance of maybe you play strong boards, then you just level straight to 4, get that map reduced, and get another tier 4 map every turn. I have to try it out. I still don't see it being amazing. I haven't seen Elise's in my lobby do well, but maybe maybe you can pull something off. Now, Arana's buddy is now a tier 2 as well from a tier 3, from a 5-4 to a 4-4, also 1 attack change. I don't think those matter too much, but it's a neutral. Again, it's a card that you don't really want to keep on the board, like a 4-4 neutral, but you kind of have to, because it makes your refreshes go 0. It's way too impactful. I don't think Arana, mainly because of her hero power, is in a decent spot still. There's a lot of heroes that will out-high-roll you, a lot of poison, so if you play Party Rock comps, Party Elementals and Multi-Rocks on tier 2, or comps like that, you will still lose most of the time. Sure, she's better now, like you get it way earlier, so you can way earlier pop off and find your pieces. I have to give it a go. I would say don't get too beta by this either. Piloted Whirl-O-Tron, which is Sneed's buddy. I haven't seen any Sneeds like ever since this buddy was released. It is now a tier 2, so you get it super early. I don't think that matters at all, because that means you will just have to copy a bad death rattle. Like, you don't want to play this early. You will have to copy a Salvus or a Bomb or an Icky Imp. Like, even if this was a tier 4, I think it would be the same deal, because you want to hold this in hand until you hit like the big stuff on higher tiers, like the Goldrun, maybe the Buster, or I guess Egg, or whatever. I think the only thing that comes to mind is Trickster. You want demons in your lobby, so you have like a big mech that gives health. But Sneed's also just has a horrible hero power. Yeah, just stay away from Sneed. Apostle of Galakrons, obviously Galakron's buddy, is now a tier 2 as well from tier 3, so we see a lot of buddies either go up or go down. That is it. And then like a very slight stat change on most of them, which I think, you know, sometimes it makes sense. Like the 1 attack here or the 1 HP doesn't matter too much, but this is from a 5-7 to a 3-5, which is quite a big deal. That's a lot of stats, especially since Galakron could benefit of just having a big body to slap on the board to like kind of justify your greedy turns and your hero powers. This is tier 2, meaning you get it on turn 4, probably turn 5 because you're Galakron, so you'll have a weaker board. By then, you can just slap this. If you hero power something, probably get a 6 drop. I still don't see this like being too good. Like, again, it doesn't matter that this is early, because your shop will just be worse. If this is a tier 4, that means you're on tier 4 or maybe tier 5, and then you play this and you upgrade your tavern into high star cards. Now you turn your 2 drops or 3 drops like into 1 higher. That doesn't matter. Also, of course, the card that you hero power into, you can instantly evolve. That's like the biggest application I see. Just a second hero power for 1 turn. Yeah, I don't think this will make, again, too big of a difference to Galakron. If anything, it might make it worse, because you kind of want a 5-7 body to slap on the board early instead of a 3-5. Now, Tomb Diver, which is Reno's buddy. Reno, interesting hero. Hero power is still okay, but the buddy is just really bad. And it is now a tier 2 instead of a tier 3. 4-1, so the stats went down a lot, which is a big deal. 4-1 is really bad. It dies to anything. And the effect still, it's like a tempo tool that, I mean, what are you making golden early on? If this is tier 2, that means you don't even have an event card yet to make golden. While it's tier 3, then you might have a tank already to use this on. Yeah, I don't think this will make Reno better. I'm wondering if things go down from tier 3 to tier 2, maybe sometimes it's a nerf, because the stat difference becomes so big. Like, when the effect is minimal, it is more about the actual tempo that you put on the board at which turn, if that makes any sense. Like, I'm just reasoning that most of the time if things go down it's better, if things go up it's worse, but that might not always be the case, so keep that in mind. I'm trying to consider most of the applications of these buddies and their stat line. Botani, which is Omu's buddy, which was in an interesting spot as well. I feel like you could pull this off sometimes. You can't keep it on the board for too long. Every time I played Omu, I have this for like 2 cards, and then I often have to sell it, because again, you have to play with a 9-7 on the board, which you usually just can't do, since you have other flex spots like Light Fang, Bran, that you gotta keep. You have a flex spot that, you know, if you need to cycle buffs. They just up the stat line, so maybe it helps you stabilize more in higher tiers, like you have more stats, so you win more fights, more health, and you could keep it around for an extra turn. I think it's okay. I think Omu will still be in a decent spot. Fix the bug where Spirit of Air's Death Rattle, which is Alakir's buddy, sometimes applied to enemy minions. I've never seen that happen, but it must be kind of funny. And then the most important one is Golden Kill Wreck, which was Jirax's buddy, the demon Death Rattle that gives you a demon. The golden one always gave you 2 copies of the same demon. That is now fixed, which makes Jirax's a lot worse, because you could just farm a lot of triples later on in the game. Yeah, that is gone. So maybe Jirax's is kind of stealth nerfed. And yeah, that's the breakdown of all the changes that we got in patch 22.2.2. Hope you enjoyed this. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.